In this week's episode of the RAG podcast, I was joined by Mark Gaisford. Now, Mark is someone most people in the industry probably recognize right now. He's the MD and founder of a business called Red Sprout, a marketing recruitment business, which he started 3 years ago in Canterbury. I mean, he's not a big business, only 4 of them. But Mark has become LinkedIn famous. I mean, the guy has always invested in video, but 4 months ago made one video that got 1 million views on LinkedIn. Ever since, anything this guy touches seems to go to gold. He's getting 50,000 views a day on his content. And I've always kept in touch with him via social, never met him. And it's been amazing to actually bring him in. So I reached out to him to come into the podcast, and he's actually just a really humble guy. He was really honest about the fact that he had no strategy behind half of it. But he does have some really, really clear beliefs on how he sees recruitment, how he thinks people should behave, and what the future of recruitment is. And I'll be honest, I'm delighted that someone's now also banging the drum that brand can have such a clear ROI on recruitment activity. So in this episode, we talk about everything from how he started, what happened overnight, how he lost 4 days to social media when he first went viral, and what's happened since, the net effect of investing in his personal brand. So I'm hoping you're going to absolutely love this episode as much as we had a barrel of laughs filming it. Without further ado, Mark, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to actually finally meet you.
I know. We've known each other on LinkedIn for such a long time, but never actually... Isn't that always the way, though?
Never yeah, it's always the way. It's definitely always the way. But you're a little bit different because your face has popped up a lot recently, which we'll get onto. But even my whole team, as you walked in, was like, oh, it's the video guy, which is very rare.
I still find that so weird, though, when you walk into rooms and people kind of look at you. And you know that look when they think they know you, but they don't want to come and say anything to you? I just find the whole thing really bizarre.
Well, I went to an office last week, and they probably won't mind me saying, but they came up to me and was like, he's not blonde. And I was went, as I walked in, I was like, what? And then he's like, well, I said you had grey hair on LinkedIn, but he said you had blonde hair. I was like, no, it's definitely grey. But that, I mean, I'm not going to compare myself to you because we're in different leagues right now. But there is, I understand what's going on. But look, delighted to have you on the podcast. I want to find out all about what's gone on recently and the story of Red Sprout. But if you could give us, I've done a little intro, but it never ever does justice like it will be from the horse's mouth. So can you give the listeners a little overview of who you are and what you do? My
name is Mark Gaisford. I am the MD and founder of Red Sprout. My background in recruitment goes back donkey's years. I started out in a little company called Echo Employment.
Oh, wow.
Which predates Adecco as it is now.
Really?
Yeah. That was the company.
That is the global number one, isn't it?
It was Echo Employment and Adia Alfred Marks. And I think from memory, there was one major global client that said, look, you guys are just not good enough separate, but if you get together, we'll give you the global deal. And they did.
Did they get royalties for that?
I don't know what. I was very junior at the time. And so that's where I started and that was in industrial recruitment, industrial recruitment. And then, fast forwarding, doing lots and lots of different things in recruitment over the years. And in the year 2000, if you had a domain name, you just thought you were a millionaire anyway, because we were in this whole .com bubble, and you owned a URL and you just thought you were the dog's danglies, really. And so I started a job board when job boards kind of didn't really exist. I think Monster was.
You started it personally?
Yeah, started a business called Top Dog Jobs, which I thought was a great name, and then as soon as we went to market, we realised it was actually impossible to say. So really good marketing there, and that's my sort of rebellious side of me. Really, is that I always wanted to do something a little bit different, and I love the tech as well. So I wanted to always get involved in the technology side of things, and so we started this job board, and were one of the first ever people to put CVs online for people to search. Wow. And at the time we thought it was radical, and it was, I suppose, but we never had the money of Monster or the big boys to really sort of take that to the next level. And so we had 5 years and it used to be called New Media back in the day as well. Wow. So we had 5 years really having good fun in New Media with running this job board, and then sold it to a social media channel that nobody under a certain age will even remember, because it was called Friends Reunited, and it was at the time the biggest social media channel in the UK, and we sold to those guys, who then went on to sell to ITV. And then I went back into corporate recruitment for a while. Really? I did a bit of a sort of earn out with those guys, and then went back into corporate recruitment, and just then got bored of going to London and doing all that stuff.
Did you find that hard to go back into? Agency?
Really tough, because once you've been your own boss, it's bloody hard work to actually take direction from somebody else, you know. I fitted, and I had about 3 or 4 years back in corporate recruitment, really. But I was always hankering after doing something else.
Did you have to wear a suit, or were you?
Yeah,
were you?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. No,
it's horrible. No, I know. I haven't worn a suit for years now. So, and I think during the recession as well, 2008, 2009, I had to go to. I worked in Wales for a year. I worked in Bristol for a year, because that was where there was work. I missed a lot of my kids' sort of childhood, because I was always working away. And I just got to that stage one day when I just thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I want to do something different. And so gave the whole lot up and started Red Sprout from a back bedroom, as every good business does, with a little bit of money in the pocket, and just thought, well, let's start something new.
Why did you choose to invest in your time with marketing agencies? Was that what you knew before, or was it just...
No, it was just, I think for me, so even before Red Sprout, I kind of knew that there was a part that video could play in the recruitment process, and I really wanted to play with that and see where we could take it. And so working with a client base that are rebellious and quite cool and trendy and all that sort of stuff, and actually always thinking about mad zany ideas, it kind of fitted where I wanted to take Red Sprout as well. So
did you have the knowledge of that industry though?
No, not a clue. No, Google's a great thing. And this is the thing, you don't have to be a PPC manager or a technical SEO consultant to be able to recruit for one. No, you have to understand the requirements, the skills, the experience, the personality types that fit those kind of roles. But ultimately, and you get to learn all that stuff as you go on anyway. So, I get the whole bit about, an ex-accountant wanting to be a recruiter, because they come with all that industry knowledge. But I'd still question whether they've got that kind of personality to bring to sales and bring to recruitment.
It's usually the ones that had the personality anyway and were in the
exactly.
wrong. Like, for example, it was even like I used to recruit in the insurance market, and they used to recruit people that did like change management, so business analysts, project managers, and they were always people typically from either technology or a business industry, and were just bored and better communicators, so they were better fit. And I think recruiters who do that are typically, they're just natural networkers. But I completely subscribe to that. I've never done a day in insurance in my life.
No.
But at my peak, I felt like I knew enough to do it.
Exactly.
Do it very well.
And that's what we did. So, we just sort of found this market space which kind of fitted where I felt Red Sprout would be comfortable as well.
How did you come to Red Sprout? Very, very marketing agency.
I think, well, again, the same thing, really. £5 pints, the pub, and 123 Reg Open. It was kind of, and it literally was. I'm not a massive subscriber to the meaning behind names. No. A name is what you ultimately make it anyway. So it didn't matter, and it was very marketing agency. And if you're going to name your business, you might as well name it after a coloured vegetable, mightn't you? So it was kind of that. It was kind of that thinking, really. And then we just started to mess around with video. And really, the first piece for me, the only piece in that puzzle was I want to video interview candidates, because I want to bring this person who normally would only be seen on a CV, and I want to bring this personality out, and I want to show the client what this person is all about. And that's really where it started. We looked at a lot of the video interview software, or I looked at a lot of the video interview software. Didn't really like it, because I think at the time it was like send 3 questions to the candidate, and they've got to answer it to the webcam and all that kind of stuff. And my point was I wanted to bring the personality out, and that just didn't. It was very difficult unless you're an actor.
And as a recruiter, you should be good at enabling.
And that's the point, isn't it? So essentially what we did is a Zoom call, hit the record button, spend 20 minutes having a laugh with the candidate, get them feeling comfortable and at ease, and then hit go. And that's the bit where...
Did you edit that up?
Yeah, and then we edit that up.
Are you still doing that now?
Yeah, we still do that now.
So you don't use like a Odro interview?
No. We are purely Zoom, hit record and edit. And the guys in the office edit in Camtasia, and just because I do all the other stuff in Premiere Pro, I do it in Premiere Pro. And that's a lot of, people don't really see that, but every single candidate that is submitted to a client has gone through that sort of filtration process.
Well, we'll go into that. So let's go backwards. So you started the agency, you said it was mid-2016, you... On your own, or do you have a partner?
No, on my own.
Just you in a bedroom. Red Sprout comes up after a few pints. What was the first thing you did? And the reason I'm asking that is I've had a lot of messages recently when I've put content out saying, look, season 2's coming. What do you want to know? And they keep saying the younger or smaller businesses or people that haven't started keep asking me like, what the fuck did you do on day one? I'm like, good question. What did you do on day one?
No, I wouldn't even say I was lucky. I was going to say I'm lucky because I've been in the industry for a long time, but actually we were trying to do something, I was trying to do something very, very different. So, and I didn't have any clients.
No data.
And I didn't have any candidates. So it was essentially, right, let's open LinkedIn and start connecting with people in the industry in which I want to now start recruiting for. And although we don't sell now, the early days were very much sales focused. You had to get out there and you had to introduce yourself. So it was a lot of calls and emails and all the rest of it to just try and drum up that first bit of business, really. And so, we weren't making massive amounts of cold calls. But it was only me. I only had to sustain my salary. So, if I'd made a placement for $6 or $7 grand, I was happy as Larry, really. So it didn't matter. So
you had your family as well.
Yeah. So you don't have to change the world overnight. You start very small and take 1 or 2 jobs, and you just work the hell out of those jobs and place them. And again, this is kind of where I think the recruitment industry is interesting because it's just so KPI driven and everything is like you must make so many calls and get so many jobs and all the rest of it. You need one job and one candidate, and if that's a match, you're making money. It's as simple as that. So that's how I started it.
So you got on the phone in your back bedroom, and then you're now what, three and a bit years in?
3 and a bit years in. Yeah.
So how did the first couple of years progress?
First year was 100% me high-fiving the dogs at home when I made a placement. and that's I totally get that. It's an incredibly lonely existence. And you've got to find some way of doing something else, even if that is getting out, walking the dog, going to the gym, whatever it is. You need some out of the house time if you're starting from
I can see
home.
why. We made the decision. I can see why people don't get an office from day one. But we made a decision, me and my business partners, was we took a Regis business lounge, which is just, no offence to Regis if you're listening, but it was like a really depressing airport lounge. Like, do you know when you're in an airport, but you're not, your flight's been delayed and everyone's pissed off. That was what we were working. And it was 100 quid. It still got me out of the house. Exactly. But then I had to pay for the train. So there was costs involved that were not necessary, but at least it got me out. And come back, and I felt like I was still working. And
I did that same thing. So the first year was at home. I got cabin fever and thought I've got to go do something different. Went to co-working space. It's a co-working. You've got to be really careful with your co-working space. The kind of space that you've got downstairs here, brilliant, love it. Mine, and no disrespect to them. There's obviously in Canterbury where we are. There's a limited amount of co-working space, and the one I chose was full of devs. So there's the recruiter sitting in this room, open plan room, with all these developers just typing, and me going, yeah, it's a great job, you'd be really brilliant for this, and every bloke in the place could hear every single word. I thought, this is just not going to work. So very quickly then took a very, very, very small, very, very cheap little office, and then hired the first employee.
And who was that?
That was Olivia.
So this is the Olivia we hear about in the videos.
Yes. Absolutely. So best hire ever.
Who was Olivia when you brought her in? Was she already recruiting? Or?
No, she's so she came from a PR. Do you know what? Can I tell this story? He will never listen to this. I nicked her from one of my clients.
Oh wow! And if he does listen, give him a call. Get a PR of it.
No, she was. I placed her as well. So she was working at a PR agency, and I won't name it.
I hope you didn't do it in rebate.
No, out of rebate.
Yeah, of course. You made your money. Fucking hell.
I placed her, and a year later, she was looking for a move, so we just got together, have a chat, and it was just kind of worked. It just kind of clicked really well. And she's very different from me, which is actually a massive advantage, because she does attention to detail. She does process. She's very organised. Everything that I'm not, she's brilliant at. So as a double act, it just works really well. So then there was two of us, and we kind of then messed around with another couple of people doing bits and pieces. We had interns come in and help us out and other bits. And then finally we had to grow up about 4 months ago and actually take out a lease on an office.
So it was only about 4 months ago you actually...
Yeah, we actually grew up 4 months ago and took a proper lease, which was kind of committing in writing to 3 years. We're going to stay here.
3 years?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, a year or two. It's
Yeah.
definitely a long exit. I think we've got a 6 month notice period.
But then, and I think, in the early days, when you're just starting out, it is bloody nerve-wracking,
Did you have a business plan?
No. It's all done on the back of a fact packet.
Yeah, I was like that. And now I've got plans, pretty extensive plans now. But I interviewed Ricky Martin last year, who was the Apprentice winner, and it's probably testament to the fact he won the Apprentice that he had a business plan.
Yeah.
But if you listen back to that episode, it was like episode 2 or 3 of the series. He was so adamant that if you haven't got a business plan, like, piss off. Yeah. And I get his point. Like, I couldn't argue.
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't have
Neither did I.
And
we've literally, Sean, we've literally started to forecast this last year.
Really?
That's it.
Wow.
Because
it was hand to mouth at that point.
And it is, totally. And the thing is, you can do all these bloody great spreadsheets that tell you how well you're doing. Actually, the key indicator as to how well you're doing is how much cash you've got in the bank. That is all that matters during the first phase of starting a business. If you've got cash flow, you've got clients that are paying on time, you've got enough money to pay yourself and pay your staff, that is, who cares how much net profit you're making or all the other nice KPIs? It means nothing. And then I think as you get to, we're still small, so we're still only 4 of us now. And we've got plans to grow that team to 8 within the next sort of 12 months. So we're getting a little bit more aggressive, I suppose, in those plans, but we're still small. But now we're starting to grow up and forecast. We're still not KPI driven. We literally monitor one stat, and that is first interviews,
which is the most important stat.
That's all we care about. Everything else, that starts to point stories. And if that stat's not being made, then there's something going wrong somewhere.
My old boss used to say that first interviews is the only stat you can't fudge.
Yeah,
which is true.
Yeah.
Unless you're a complete arse and you're faking them and putting them in the wrong
exactly.
bit. But if that's a genuine statistic, that you can always be sending. Well, it's the only stat as well that proves performance.
Yeah.
Because you can send 1,000 shit CVs.
Exactly.
But if you're not getting interviews, so in the first couple of years, obviously it sounds great, but it can't have all been rosy, right?
No, it's bloody hard work.
What went wrong that you look back and think, fucking hell, that was a tough time?
Recruiters are, I don't know if it's just me, I think it is industry wide actually. We're really shit at hiring for ourselves a lot of the time.
Yeah. That's why I launched Connect.
Yeah, and we've made some mistakes, which are as much my fault as they are, the individual's fault. We just, because you kind of just go on gut reaction because that's what you like as a recruiter. So those haven't always worked out the way we would want them to work out. And I think we got a little bit big-headed as well around, they love the brand, we're just going to hire them because they're a bit of a fan, and that's a mistake as well. And it's tough, I think the pressure, when you're working for somebody and they pay you every month, and you go home at the end of the day, however many hours you've worked, you can switch off. When you're running your own gig, you never switch off. It is always on your mind 24/7, and you're always worried about the next client, the next placement, if there's enough cash coming in and all that stuff. And that it eventually just starts to take over. And I think for some people that is too much pressure, but you sometimes, you just kind of settle into it. Eventually, the biggest thing was hiring Olivia, because suddenly couldn't do that out of a back bedroom, needed an office to do it, had to set up a payroll, had to set up a pension scheme, all of these kind of really
to think for 2 people.
Yeah, these sort of boring things. But then also it's that pressure of, I'm not just responsible for my salary and whether I can pay my mortgage, I'm now responsible for somebody else's life. And that pressure, plays on your mind as well. But again, as you get used to it, these things all settle.
How did you make it like fun when there's 2 people? Because I know there's a lot of founders who start as 2 people, and at the end of the day, like if you listen to the episode 1 of this podcast of this season, the 2 guys started their agency, but had worked together, mates, lived together. It was intense. But I imagine the first hire when you're a solo entrepreneur, that's a really important one. And how do you keep it fun and fresh without it being a bit weird or a bit too intense? Because
the weird thing
they're
is
an employee.
I know, and do you know what? It gets weird around Christmas, because if Liv and I went for a Christmas party, that would just look wrong. You know, she's exactly half my age, and that would just look wrong. So and so, even little things like that. You know, going down the pub on a Friday night, it just doesn't feel right when there's just two of you. It does. It looks just like really weird. So. But yeah, I mean, I think that first hire is critical, because you've got to get somebody that understands you and what you're trying to achieve, and really wants to be part of something, but also someone that's really adaptable to change. And so it's absolutely critical than that. And I think the thing for me, I always treated Liv as an equal from day one. She was always just going to be my partner in business. We would discuss everything, completely open. So we both knew where we were as a business, and that just it's also a bit of a stress reliever for me, because I can offload some of the sort of stress and pressure of running a business, but equally she understands what we're trying to do in the dream and all the rest of it. So it's critical.
If you can remember, what was the kind of vision then when you brought her in?
So it's weird for me, because when I started Red Sprout, actually, I wasn't ambitious. I'd just come out of a spell in corporate recruitment, and literally my thinking was, do you know what, I'm just going to do this for me. So I'm just going to take a little sort of cottage industry, and I'll sit at home and do this and that, a few placements, and, you know, make a bit of a living. But then we're recruiters, aren't we? And we're naturally entrepreneurial, so you kind of get ambitious really quickly. Yeah. So it was kind of... It's kind of then taking it on from there. And now, I mean, you know, given what's happened to us recently with all the video stuff, the ambitions are just sky high. I'm being approached now by companies, but also other recruiters that are in New York or in Sydney, saying, when are you coming? When are you coming? We want to be part of the Red Sprout thing. And that just...
Really?
Which is crazy.
Think your ability to hire other recruiters to grow now would be a lot easier?
I think definitely, And I think... so whilst that's not in the plan, so I haven't written that on the back of the fag packet yet, it's kind of in the back of my mind now, thinking, well, you know, is that achievable? Because you need kind of one nice client in New York, and that could then help you open up an office over there. If we've got access to some of the recruiters who want to kind of get involved, then actually that makes it a little bit easier. So, you know, whilst those plans are certainly not down in writing, you do start thinking about those sort of opportunities as well. So yeah, the ambition is now sky high.
I love it. So let's get on to what's happened recently. So from my perspective, I mean, you know what we've been trying to do. I think you got it to day one, right? Yeah. So early 2017, we started the business, started producing content. Some of it was shite early on, and some of it's still not. There's still some bad stuff now. But the reality is, we had a vision that recruitment or recruiters were just salespeople, and marketing in recruitment was pretty dry, pretty vanilla, and both needed to change to help each other. So it's about marketing understanding the sales process and actually having an impact. And it's about recruiters engaging with marketing, sometimes on their own, or sometimes with just helping the teams out, and it being understanding that brand over a period of time will have an impact, right? And it's felt honestly at times like we are banging a drum on our own.
I'm not surprised yet.
We're like, but in a way that's also been a huge enabler for us, because there's not that many other people in our industry shouting about it. So obviously Hisham came in, and now he's doing his own thing, and he's been another one. I think there's a few others out there, a few of the smaller businesses and stuff that are trying to say a similar thing, but there's still, for the amount of recruitment companies, 30,000 in this country, and God knows how many there is, because everyone's got a different...
Exactly.
I could count on one hand how many people produce content.
I know.
But I remember your early stuff. I remember it was you, and I think sometimes your son was in it, Liv was in it. It definitely wasn't the humorous stuff that we're used to. But I definitely knew you. Like I recognised Canterbury. I thought you were a marketing agency at the first.
Did you?
Is it Red Sprout Media? Is that the name?
No. So that was kind of when I just got delusions of grandeur a little bit, and once it went viral, we just kind of thinking, well, what can we do? We can just become a media agency, and I think those options exist as a result, but not yet. So it's something.
Well, I didn't know if you were a recruitment company or a marketing agency at the time. I was like, but point being, I knew you were. And then 4 months ago-ish, you basically went viral on was it on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn.
So tell us the story. What happened?
So we've been messing around with video since we started, and as I said before, the start of that was kind of video interviewing. We then kind of looked at LinkedIn and thought, well, this is a massive opportunity. No one else is really producing content. Let's start. Didn't have a clue. I mean, we were making this stuff up as we were going along. I had no idea what we were doing.
That's half the battle.
Oh my God. And it's funny because people look at you now and think, oh my God, how did you're amazing and everything. Yeah, you should have seen the shit we were pumping out 3 years ago, because it was bloody dreadful. I mean, it was awful stuff. Yeah. And it's embarrassing when you look back. But so we started to do some stuff. We didn't have any clue as to what we were doing, how you maximize LinkedIn, how you build, really any clue what the hell we were doing, full stop. And then we were pumping this stuff out reasonably regularly. And 4 months ago, we just decided to completely change it and do something funny. And it was a piss take of job descriptions and taking the piss out.
Was that the first one then?
That was the first one. Taking the piss out of ninjas and rock stars and gurus and all the sort of crap.
See, I don't even think that one rings a bell. So I've seen that many of them now. I don't even remember that one.
Yeah.
The one that I first saw was was it when you're chasing for feedback?
Oh yeah. Interviews or something. Yeah.
In real life, I remember you saying like, Mark Gaisford. And then the phone went down. And I was just like, oh my God, this is.
And the thing is, it's related. I mean, I suppose why it worked, if you and we've done a lot of kind of thinking back as to why it works. It's relatable, but it's funny, and everyone can relate to it. I mean, everyone's seen a job description,
as well as recruiters.
Yeah, and the HR department, we had a load of HR people coming through to us saying, we write this shit and we think that's hilarious, and so we just took the piss, and but there was.
Do you remember the process of the first one? What did you do?
It was just really short, fast-paced snippets and one-liners, and there was no. I suppose the skill behind that is trying to get that one line to tell the entire story, so people know what's
your facial expression.
And exactly, and I'm lucky. I've got a face for radio and a rubbery face, and so my facial expressions kind of tell some of the story. So it was just literally, I think it was about a minute and a half of just fast-paced scenarios. Some of them broken up into like 3 or 4 segments, so it's kind of building a story up to a punchline a little bit. And it went bloody mad. I lost about 3 or 4 days on that post, because I was just honestly sit there watching just this view count and the number of likes and the number of comments.
Views.
Got 1 million views, just under 1 million views, 19,000 likes. I can't even remember what the comments were on it.
See, that is different with back in. So I got a post in 2017 where I got 250,000 views, and that's still the biggest I had.
Yeah.
There was still only about 200 likes though. Was it the days then was different?
Yeah.
I think it was just as video got, and I made one about the gym. So I came out of the gym. And I was like, it was inspired by my own experience. A recruiter I met, I can't remember who they were. They were like, basically, we can't keep hold of staff.
Yeah.
And then they were like, what they said was, oh yeah, we've got 3 new people and they keep going to the fucking gym. And I was like,
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and I was like, what do you mean? They were like, well, they're not even out of probation. They got the gym for fucking long time. They're not going to last. And I was like, well, and you wonder why you don't keep staff?
Yeah.
I was like, you've just gone on this big trail to me about your employer brand and how important it is.
Exactly.
And how you want to scale globally, and yet if someone in probation goes to the gym every day, that's a problem. So I was walking to the gym as I did it. This is a bit like one of yours. I was like, right, I went on this rant and I was like, right, I'm off to the gym. And then I got 250,000. So maybe I was onto something then.
Yeah,
I didn't catch on to myself. Yeah. But so when you released it, but I remember seeing my phone that day, just red dots all over it.
Just mad.
But 1 million is insane.
It's just, I mean, honestly,
someone. Was the DMs constantly and everything?
Like, oh my God. I mean, so we hit, I think over a period of 3 or 4 days, I think, because we posted that on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday. I mean, it pretty much died by the weekend, as posts tend to do. Yeah. But for those 3 days, it just kept on going and kept on going. And someone actually texted me and said, oh my God, you've gone viral. That's when we had 20,000 views. And then it just kept on going. And I mean, I didn't genuinely lost sleep and lost these sort of 3 days work because I was just watching this stuff happen.
It's great.
And it just went out of my network, and then it hit New York, it hit Sydney, all around the world, and absolutely crazy. But then weirdly, although you're kind of excited, you're then thinking, shit, I've got to follow this up. How do I now? So the pressure kind of mounts again, because you think, well, what am I going to do now? But I think since then, and I was at about 7,500 connections on LinkedIn, and over that 3-4 days, that rose to 25,000. Just went bang, straight away. And now even since then, so that's 4 months ago, that was the massive surge, and now I think I'm at 35,000, just about 35,000 now. So, but you get that sort of momentum effect where once you've done that sort of viral post, then people just kind of keep coming back and back and back. But it means that your content just automatically, as soon as you post something out, is just getting out to a bigger bunch of people straight away. So and now it is our business development strategy. And a lot of people still say this to me: how can you justify the time that you put in to producing video content?
Well, I get, just before you answer that, like I left a meeting today that was basically, you know, Sean, it sounds great, but what the fuck are we going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Two, have we really got the time?
Yeah.
And we need our people to be on the phone, and it's like, we'll answer that question.
It's old school thinking, unfortunately, as well. And so my answer is the same to everybody. Reframe that as business development. Because if you start saying, I'm going to invest 3 hours today in business development, every recruitment owner will be going, brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. And that is exactly what video content is.
I looked at, the reason I started this whole fucking agency was because I was thinking, I'm going to be different. And I'm going like, we do this 10 before 10 thing back in the day, stand up trying to bring 10 clients.
Yeah.
And then it was a YouTube clip, honestly, about boiling an egg. The perfect egg boiled. I think I Googled it myself, like with my missus. I'm sure it's boiling an egg. Just so any listener knows, I did know how to boil an egg. But there's a reason for this. Anyway, I think it got 11 million views. And I was like, 11 million views. And then, I don't know if you're familiar with, obviously, Gary Vee, a guy called Stephen Bartlett on Social Chain.
Yeah. I
was looking at what these guys were doing. I was like, we are battering ourselves to get all the 10 fucking hiring managers. Yeah. And then that was my mantra, was what if people just viewed my shit? Like maybe I can't prove every one of them's going to be my client, but that's real people, right? And then now it's 100% inbound business we've created. So my question is, what was the quick net ROI of doing what you've done, and then how has that impacted you since?
So we don't sell at all. We never pick up the phone. We make no.
Were you doing it before?
A little bit still, but I suppose by year 2 of the business we had, because
you were still doing video then.
We were still doing video, and so actually it was still generating incoming inquiries. For us, being a Kent-based recruitment company, we had started working pretty much with all of the marketing agencies in Kent because we were specialists. So and that was an important part of setting up the business in the first place, was that we wanted to be niche and specialist. So to be honest, we had a nice client base, and there was only 2 of us. So sustaining 2 of us was relatively easy with the clients that we had. But then that just kind of changed everything, because we don't sell at all. We make no cold calls. We never go chasing business, and business now just comes to us. And because we are out there as being marketing recruitment specialists, it's marketing business that comes to us. So we just got this sort of inbound strategy where business comes to us.
So when you say that, like, give me an example of how it would work. Would someone just DM you? Like, what's it like?
I mean, most of them start on a DM, to be honest with you. I had one literally this week from I love this one as well, because it's a Silicon Valley. We put out a video about it, but it's about a Silicon Valley tech giant, and they are big San Francisco company with an office in the UK's Silicon Valley in Reading. And the head of marketing came through and said, "Love your videos. Here's a role. This is what we would like you to work on." It's like, oh, okay. And so as a recruiter, you go straight to the website, you look at the career page, and there's like 50 or 60 jobs sitting there. And then once I thought, oh no, they're all in Raleigh, California, or in Silicon Valley. There were the 2 or 3 that were Reading based. Anyway, this is, I mean, we've started working on this. It's already become our dream client, because she just gets it completely. And so we're working on a big role for them, and I've never spoken to them or heard of them before in my life. They've just come to us as a result. So it just works. Yeah.
Well, that's what I get a lot of clients that we end up on the phone or video to, and we're talking about the services and what we do and the process, and they're like, I'm not sure it'd work. And I always say to them, well, how did you get here?
Yeah.
And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, I didn't ring you.
Yeah.
I didn't know you existed. You're just a random agency somewhere that I didn't know. So people, they have to start believing in it, because we're all a product of it. All them people that are reaching out to you, it's not by accident, right?
No, it's not. No.
So one question I've got, though, is, like, obviously you're a small business with a very clear niche, which is, I mean, we could argue we're very similar in that way.
Yeah.
How would you personally think the other businesses that maybe have a slightly more complex landscape? Because recruiters, by nature, a typical recruitment company that might only have 5 to 10 staff could still have 4 divisions with different industries and job titles.
Yeah.
How would you go about ensuring that they would be able to reach enough people that it would affect their whole business?
I think it's more complicated. If you're going to do that and you're going to have multiple different sectors in which you recruit for, then there is a complication. I'm a massive advocate of personal branding. And so I think the responsibility has got to, and I think actually the role of a recruiter the fundamental role of a recruiter has got to change. They've got to be bloody good content creators, whether that be written, whether that be video, whatever that is, they've got to be responsible for that. And because it's all about personal brand. So even if we were Red Sprout, but I had one consultant who did engineering and one consultant who did financial services, I would really be looking at those guys to develop their own personal brand and their own community of people on LinkedIn and outside that would then build that, and you could expand that further. For us at the moment, it's easy because we're marketing. Our scale-up plans are merely going to be to change our geography. So we will sort of break out of Kent, go into London and move up the country, and we've already started to do that thanks to the video stuff we do. So we've become a UK-wide marketing specialist, which is a nice place to be. But yeah, I think it's all about the individual, and the consultant has now got to, in my view, understand that role has changed and the landscape has changed in terms of social media, and really understand what that means.
100%. What has been the kind of the best result or best byproduct of what you've been through in the last few months?
I think it is, so actually weirdly, right, it is, so we've got this sort of funnel of new business that's coming through as a result of the video content that we put out, which is fabulous.
And imagine candidates as well, right?
Tons. I mean, if there's a sort of a bit of where we are at the moment and the scale we are, we can't help everybody, and that is a little bit of a frustration, because we're going to get people for digital marketing who want to be placed in Manchester, and at the moment we can't help.
But I bet if you DM a candidate, they're going to respond more likely.
Oh my God, and that's the nice thing, because you start going onto LinkedIn and start doing some proactive stuff, and I did this yesterday. I was just sending out some messages to people, and their first response was, "Oh my God, you've connected with me, love your videos." And so it really is a nice opener for when you're starting to go out and do some headhunting stuff. But the night, actually weirdly, so we get this sort of new funnel of new business coming through, but what it also does is always keep us in mind of our existing clients. So if we haven't recruited for a company for 6 months because they haven't had a need, we are still absolutely 100% at the forefront of their mind. So normally when you go through you deal with one client and 6 months later they want to recruit someone else and they've forgotten about you, so they just look at Google and go somewhere else. They don't. They just always come back. So it's kind of this retention of business is crazy.
Yeah, I did a post about it today.
Did you?
I did. I said recruiters who have no opinions will be forgotten, basically. Which means that it doesn't matter how good a job you've done, because of the sheer volume of competition out there's someone else going to pick up the phone every day that you've not. So you've got to be thinking about staying in front of mind, and it doesn't always have to be a sales. I've
got one other thing as well, which is weird, because from day one I said, you know what, I'm not going to do the typical recruitment thing. Candidates love to know the company that we're hiring for, but there's a risk, we know as a recruiter, that if we go out with the company name, every other sodding recruiter on the planet is going to try and phone them. But because, and we at the time we were also doing a lot of video work with our clients, so we were kind of doing this thing about beyond the front door and showing candidates inside the offices, and just because of that commitment that we gave to the client, we were able to go and say, look, we are hiring for Reflect Digital, or we are hiring for Pillory Barn, and they would get the recruitment calls still coming in, but the attitude of the client was totally different. Not interested, we only work with Red Sprout. And it just in an industry where loyalty is really hard to come by, we just found it came because we were delivering more for each client.
And what do you think has been the most, if you can have a negative, what's been the downside or the challenges you've faced since?
I think, so I mean, scaling any business is hard. And we know the life cycle between taking a job and actually getting the cash in the bank can be quite a long time in the recruitment industry. And so we sit with, £250,000 on our pipeline board of jobs that we've got on the table, and we haven't or can't afford the resource to be able to really work all those stuff. So I think there's always going to be scaling problems unless you're going to get big investment coming into your business, and so scaling is always going to be a problem. But as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you can start to invest more and more of the money back into new resource coming in. But I think any small business trying to grow that is always tough. That's always a negative.
But as the brand and the content, has it? Because I think one of your videos last week, it was funny, but it was like, I've got to get back and do recruitment.
Yeah.
Has it actually had an impact and pulled you away from the day-to-day a little bit?
Yes, totally. And so my responsibility, I mean, they all call me the creative director now in the office, because essentially my role is business development and marketing. And so I'm the face of the business. And so mine really is business development. The business comes to me, I get the DMs from potential clients coming through, and that gets passed now to the rest of the team, who then do the recruitment piece, really. But she went on holiday and bloody left me. So I had to do it. So my thinking was, I'll just do a video because it's kind of funny anyway, and that we've done a lot more of this over the last couple of weeks. We've put job post content out, which traditionally I would say steer well clear of, because it is just boring. That whole "my client is recruiting for," which is the most shit boring post you can ever see on LinkedIn. But we turned it into me singing Freddie Mercury and trying to articulate a job, made it funny, made it entertaining, and got 15,000 views and 300 likes and candidates streaming in. So it's just, I think it was just for us, it was trying to take what is the bland and the boring and the banal and turning that into something that actually entertains, and we filled that role.
And what do you think, because my honest opinion is that recruitment is changing. And it's a term you hear, and it might be that I'm just connected to more recruiters and I see more than I saw a couple of years ago, but I do feel like back in 2016, 17, when I first thought about what we were going to do, there was just no one doing anything I could see. Then in 2017, 18, the launch of native video came in, and you started to see more people posting. And as I said, the algorithm was great then without people even knowing about it. Now I feel like it's the peak time for LinkedIn.
It totally is.
What do you think is going to happen in the next few years for both LinkedIn platforms, but also for recruiters? Like, how do you see the industry moving?
I've got to be in my bonnet about the whole technology piece. Although I love the tech piece, I totally still believe that as recruiters, we have got to do our best to create human connection. That is what it's all about. And all these technology solutions, and I've taken the piss out of these things in the videos that I've done, the ATS systems that filter out candidates without a human being ever seeing them. Hate all that stuff. I get it, and I understand the reasons why, and I also hate the way that people hide behind a hello at or an info at email, and they don't make it really simple for candidates to talk to the person about the job. That's not just recruiters, that's actually HR departments as well. So I think we've still got to bring the human element back into recruitment. What was the question?
I love that. It was about how do you think the industry will change?
So the other thing is LinkedIn. So I totally agree with you. We are in peak time now. And if you are, as a recruiter, especially if you're now starting a recruitment business, if you are not investing a shitload of your time in building up connections and followers on LinkedIn, then I'll tell you now, in about 12, 18 months, probably, that algorithm is going to change, and the ability to generate those connections and those followers is going to be 10 times more difficult, and you're going to have to spend money to get there.
Well, they're already, we're already doing a hell of a lot on the platform in terms of spending on Campaign Manager for ourselves and our clients. And again, if you're prepared to spend a bit of cash right now, you can also get an unbelievable return because no one else is, or not enough people are doing it.
But Facebook is a classic example. It's really difficult now to build that audience on Facebook, and you've got to put some money behind it. LinkedIn, it's easy at the moment, so take the opportunity.
How do you think recruiters would you think they will actually start adopting this stuff at scale, or is it still going to be?
I think it's really difficult. I think so the guys that are now thinking of starting up or have just started up, you are probably in the best position because you are your own boss. You can do what the hell you like, and you've not got a boss to report to. The issue for the guys that are working in corporate recruitment or bigger high street recruiters is that it's going to be very difficult to get the buy-in from the bosses on this, and therefore you haven't got that ability to flex your own muscles and do your own thing, and that's where I think it won't change. But the new breed are coming through, the rebellious guys. That excites
me because actually, as a business, we're really excited about supporting challenger brands. So the
exactly right,
like yours that are small but with global ambition and freedom and excitement, and usually very niche. Like, it's rare that you see a startup that's not niche. So we as a business at Hoxo, we've made a conscious decision in the last 6 months that by launching Inbound Light, which is our product for those businesses, we've literally over doubled our business in 4 months, and the reason was that we consciously want to support that movement. I'm not saying we don't work with bigger businesses, because we do, but as we grow, I see just the sheer volume of new businesses coming into the industry, and it's usually good billers, mid to late 30s. You know, they want to take all the things that went well in their previous, but not everything else.
We need some rebels. We really need some rebel. We need some rebel thinking. The world is changing. We've got all these young people coming through whose method of communication is different, whose needs and wants in the workplace are now different, and as a result, the recruiters that do all this work have got to change as well. Now is the time for the rebellious recruiters to do stuff differently.
What do you think of recruiter bashing on LinkedIn?
Oh, I think look, our industry.
What you did was funny, and actually I think it was the opposite of recruiter bashing.
Yeah.
But like, I saw a post this week. I'm not going to name who it is. I commented on it, and then I've watched the feed go nuts, and it is just it's an opportunity. He's not done it on purpose, I don't think, but he's teed himself up for people to just slag recruiters off. And it's like any Tom, Dick and Nobby from another industry, like, well, recruiters don't do this, and I never get called back. And I'm just like, I'm fucking bored.
I know,
like,
it's the same shit.
Any industry, you could talk about.
The difference is our product talks, and that's not the problem. That is the fact of life. Our product talks, and it complains about how it's being treated, and damn right too. And this is, I suppose I touched on it in terms of when I was talking about that human connection. We have automated the shit out of everything to the point that there is no interaction between a human being and the candidate, and those systems and processes don't always work correctly, or it's so bloody banal and really, really cold in the way that it communicates with the candidates that anyone's going to complain about it. So we've got to get back to that time where, certainly as a startup recruitment business, you've got the opportunity. You don't need the scale. You need client, you need candidates. Treat the bloody people with respect. Talk to them rather than email them, and be bloody human. And actually, you can change the world just by doing that. Everyone is going to slag off the recruitment industry, and we are a victim of our own bloody shit reputation, to be honest with you, because we've treated people historically like shit. So stop it. Just don't do it anymore. Treat people with respect, and suddenly you'll find that you've got a good reputation in amongst a whole pile of crap elsewhere. Simple.
Yeah, true. My, I know, like literally my stepmom, when I first started Hoxo, before I started Hoxo, I was going to start the recruitment company, was like, she's got a real negative opinion. She's an SEO consultant in Manchester, and she was like, I don't like recruiters, like they're shit basically. And I was like, okay, cool. I said to her, what do you think of SEO consultants? She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, are they good? She's like, not really. I mean, she's like, I'm better than most of them. Yeah. I was like, so do you think there's opportunity for some good recruiters as well? Like, do you think they're all shit, or could there be some good ones out there? And it was quite a funny conversation. One thing you said before, because we had a catch up obviously before the episode, and you talked about how the whole relationship with the phone. Because I was in a meeting yesterday, and a client said, do you know what's refreshing about what you've said, Sean, is you're not trying to take us away from the phone, you're trying to enable the phone. And I think that's what's going to be different about what we do and other marketing agencies that don't really know recruitment. Is the last thing I want to do is go to a company and say, by the way, no one's going to pick up the phone anymore. I want to drive phone calls, but warm calls and inbound calls, and fucking have a better like when you reach out now or I reach out, it's a better conversation, but it still ends up on a phone with a sales conversation.
It's the best. I mean, aside from face-to-face, which is 100% the best way of communicating, the phone is the next best thing. The irony, and I laugh at this because I'm 52, my generation and maybe a little bit older than me are the idiots that have, not idiots, they're the people that have created all of these amazing tech tools to allow us to communicate more efficiently. And all we've done is drive people onto these messenger apps and email and Slack and all these other things. And then we complain that the young generation are really crap at social interaction and can't talk anymore, and yet we're the ones that have driven them onto these messenger apps. There is nothing, it's still a massive bone of contention with me, and I say it to my guys almost every day, because their natural response is to sit there and type an email, and I just say, will you just pick up the fucking telephone? Because you're going to learn from their voice, from the other stuff that they're going to add in that conversation on the phone, 10 times more than you're going to get out of just some email that will tell you the answer to the question.
And also, it's often faster to phone someone than
totally is.
Like, I listened to a podcast with Steve Bartlett, so the Diary of a CEO, and his episode last week with Joe Wicks, which I thought was pretty good. I like both people, and it was great to understand more about them. And the one thing Joe Wicks said, and I messaged, after the episode, I tagged them both, and they both did it. So Joe said to Stephen, he sends voice notes.
Oh yeah.
So in a text message generation, he sends voice notes on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can do it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can.
But it's so much more personal than the written word.
Yeah.
And I've started, I mean, they both did it to me. And I was like, fucking hell, Joe Wicks and Steve Bartlett both voice noted me. Steve said he was going to come on my podcast, so we'll see. I mean, the reality is he's not here yet. So you've got to live up to it now. If you are listening, maybe you're not. But they both did it, and I've enjoyed since doing it and sending. And it is like that's that substitute. I mean, voicemails have existed for fucking however, but doing it on a text version.
The funny thing is though, right? I mean, I completely get you. And I was saying this to Olivia the other day. She said, "Oh no, I never listen to a voicemail." So it's just so weird.
But if you send it in a WhatsApp,
oh yeah, they'll listen to it.
Like, I only realised that on WhatsApp you can flick up on the when you're doing the voice recording, you hold it down, but if you swipe up, you can just carry on talking. I only figured that out about a week ago. But I think there's something about the human element of our voices and our faces that you'll never replace.
No.
But I mean, I don't know what you're like outside of work, but I've made a conscious effort recently to try and get off my phone because probably the first 2 years of Hoxo, my head was just in it, and I'd come home and I was engaged, and we've got wedding planning, and I'm fucking in my head. I'm looking at my phone, and actually, our relationship's going the other way around. So I'm always saying to Fids now, like, come on, we both get home late. Get off your fucking phone. Like, she's like, but I've not been on it all day because she was a PT on her feet. I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm
sorry, I'm still 100% in it. But then I'm still a recruiter at the end of the day. And so I'm going to get DMs from potential candidates when I've messaged them during the day. And if we don't react quickly.
So what is life like behind the scenes? Tell us more about you as a person. Forget the recruitment side.
So my big passion as well at the moment is about helping the students because both my kids, my son Jack's been through uni and come out the other side. My daughter is just going into her second year at Brighton doing architecture. So I've just developed this real passion because I actually got really angry about the way that the universities are not helping students. They'll quite happily take the money off them, but then really at the end of their degree, there is not a huge amount of support there to get them moving out of education, which is a massive leap into the world of work. So we're doing a lot actually at Red Sprout in this sort of concept called No Fee Friday, where we'll get students.
I've seen one of your videos. It was wicked,
So we do it with the students, and as they're coming out of uni, we get them on for a video interview, which we do all the time with all of our candidates. But instead, with their permission, we then plaster that all over LinkedIn and say basically who's interested. There's no fee, and just I'm not answering the question, but actually I'm so passionate about this. We did it with a guy the other day who had done a marketing degree,
I think I've seen it,
but was a mad fanatical golf person. And this is hot off the press because we haven't announced this yet. So we put the No Fee Friday video up basically and said, right, we're looking for a golf obsessed marketing agency in London. Here he is.
I watched it, yeah.
And the next day got a message from the owner of a golf focused marketing agency in London who said, get him across here now, we want to interview him. And I think he's been offered a job.
Oh wow.
So that's crazy. And so outside of work, it's a lot of time with the family, to be honest with you. It's all
you live in Canterbury, I imagine.
Yeah, I live in Canterbury.
Which is nice. I've never been, but I said
lovely. So, and we went down there for family. So we're really, I was born in Manchester and then brought down as a very young person into sort of South London around there, grew up around there, and we went down to Canterbury because my wife's family down there, and so we got the support for the kids and all that kind of stuff, and it's been great. We've been down there 20 odd years, and the kids are grown up, and so my wife and I are in that zone now where we're thinking, Jesus Christ, everyone's leaving, and we're kind of back on our own again. So, and it's a really nice time of life actually, because you suddenly everything that you do is for your family and for your kids, and suddenly they start flying the nest, and you're thinking, wow,
got some time.
We're just a couple again, and this time we've got a bit more money. And from when we were younger, what are we going to do with this newfound time in life? So
you're going to give yourself time off.
I'm really crap at that at the moment. Really crap at that. But yeah, absolutely.
And obviously we touched on it before, but what is the future for Red Sprout? And what do you think will happen, and what do you want to happen?
I think I don't want to grow too quickly. So my attitude at the moment is very much marathon, not sprint. I'm all about building the brand, and I would be probably more cautious than foolhardy, just going ahead, bang, bang, bang. So I think for the next 2 years we want to grow our small team and probably double it in size. And our initial ambitions are to start now working with more London-based marketing ad agencies, but also across the South Coast, and then start sort of going up the country a little bit as well. And so the ambition probably for the next 3 or 4 years is to be a UK-wide marketing recruitment specialist. And then world domination can come after that.
Exciting. And look, final thing. So if you were going to go back now, or if I could get a room full of people in front of us now that was saying either they're in the first few years of recruitment as an owner, not as a consultant, or they were in that year where they're like, should I quit? Should I not? I got a DM last week. I won't name him or name his company, but he said, Sean, 18 months of and and your podcast has actually been a nudge in the right direction for me. And I love it. I mean, it literally was so. That is why I'm doing this, not only to help people in the job now, but also that next generation, because I just want more people to do it and take that leap.
Yep.
So what couple of pieces of advice would you give these people if you could
well, the ones that are sort of thinking about taking the jump?
They're either thinking about it or they're in the first year, for example. It's very small, it's still embryonic. What advice would you give?
God, I say the 52-year-old is coming out at me a little bit, because I'm kind of thinking, just don't want to encourage people to take that leap. I think there's an element of planning that you can do before you take that leap. So you've got to understand which market you're going into, and I think actually really start to build your personal brand on LinkedIn. Actually, would be my number one. Build those connections, build those interesting potential clients that are coming through, so that when you do take the leap, you're just not leaping into something completely cold, but you've actually then got something to nurture. So there's a bit of planning, but I mean, I can only give you advice from me, and I can't be a bloody employee anymore. I would be a shit employee. No one would actually want to employ me anymore, because I'm just too bloody rebellious. So if anyone's like that, do it, because the freedom is just amazing.
Amazing, love it. And obviously, I say it on every episode, if anyone wants to reach out directly and ask any
absolutely
questions, if you can see them in
I need to apologize. No, do you know what? I need to apologize. I'm not always the best at going back to my DMs, because I literally just, and this isn't being big-headed, but I just get flooded with them.
Well, is there a better way people could message you? Is there Instagram or via email?
No, no other social media channel. Yeah, my email's probably best, actually. I'll probably more respond, and that's just mark@redsprout.co.uk.
All right. Well, look, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Hopefully this will add some value. Keep doing what you're doing. I've absolutely loved the journey, and it's great to meet you in person and hear it firsthand. Because do you know what? I knew exactly how you were going to be. I knew exactly how raw it was going to fit you. And now I knew it wasn't going to be this kind of fucking, you've planned it for 12 months.
No.
I knew it wouldn't be. I knew you wouldn't be, but that's part of why I was really excited about this episode. Yeah. So I'd love to, do you know what? Let's have a follow-up chat in a year and see how we're getting
Absolutely.
on. And if the domination starts to take over.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.